This is TWiT.
Kara Swisher, I love her lead. Yesterday, I motored my Ford Fiesta down to Facebook's headquarters in Menlo Park to interview CEO and founder Mark Zuckerberg.
Does she really drive a Ford Fiesta?
Well, I just find that fascinating. Is that to establish her credentials as a woman of the people? Or
Yeah.
It's an odd lead, but she did get quite the story. Zuckerberg defending having Holocaust deniers
that was
Facebook
just so
platform.
This is why he needs to hire smart people like journalists and professors.
This is why when
Not that I'm
stop
saying.
giving
Or journalism
interviews.
He hires journalists. Many of my former colleagues work at Facebook.
Yeah, but
It's
they
just-
don't work in a position to have policy. And this is just naive, and naive is too nice a word. It's ignorant.
Yeah.
I would argue
but
that Kara is also really good at her job.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing.
Even if
Yeah.
she still drives a Ford Fiesta.
Here's the problem with globalization. If you're Facebook and you want to be what Facebook is, the company that owns more users than people exist on the planet, who rakes in all the money and has all the power and is the biggest source of news in history of mankind, et cetera, then you have to be in Middle Eastern countries. You have to be in countries where Holocaust denial is the official.
You think that's why?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a problem on every topic. If there are certain topics where it's like, oh, you can't, as a company, you can't support that position in China. As a company, you can't support that position in these other places. He's got to please everybody. And so it's like, if the official line is to crack down on Holocaust denial, you'll actually be cracking down on governments who are using Facebook.
Well, but he also defends Sandy Hook deniers. I don't know what government wants that. Why don't you, Kara asks, want to just say, get off our platform? Mark responds, look, as abhorrent as, I guess I could play the audio, but I'll read it. Look, as abhorrent as some of this content could be, I do think it gets down to this principle of giving people a voice. Let me give you an example of where we would take it down. In Myanmar, Sri Lanka, where there's a history of sectarian violence, similar to the tradition in the U.S. where you can't go in a movie theater and yell fire because it creates imminent harm. The principles that we have on what we remove from the service are, if it's going to result in real harm, real physical harm. And by the way, this is the law of the United States as well. You know, you can say anything you want, but as soon as you threaten somebody with physical harm, if they're in fear, that's not protected speech.
Right.
If you're attacking individuals, then that content shouldn't be on the platform. There's a lot of categories that we can get into, but there's a broad debate. So Kara says, okay, Sandy Hook didn't happen. It's not a debate. That's false. You can't just take that down. Mark says, well, I agree it's false. I also think that going to someone who is a victim of Sandy Hook and telling him, hey, no, you're a liar, that is harassment. We will take that down. But he doesn't mention we won't take the Sandy Hook as false down. I'm Jewish. There's a set of people who deny that the Holocaust happened. He brought it up. I find that deeply offensive. But at the end of the day, I don't believe our platform should take that down because I think there are things that different people get wrong. I don't think that they're intentionally getting it wrong.
That's the problem. That's what's so far off. Yes, of course, a Holocaust denier is getting it intentionally wrong.
Well, and Kara says that. He says, well, it's hard to impugn intent to understand the intent.
Which is him talking about scale, really.
Yeah.
He's talking about the degree of difficulty of the task.
Yeah.
What he's trying, because he's matching two different things here. One is the question of principles. On what principles? So there's a lot of discussion last week, and there was press stories, and I'm sure you probably saw them or maybe already discussed them, about InfoWars. And you have people saying, press people saying, why don't you just take InfoWars off of Facebook and off of YouTube? And at an anecdotal level, I agree. But at a principle level, you can't do that until you set the principle that says, what's the ongoing, enforceable, scalable principle that you are proposing for what gets taken down and what does not?
That's well said, Jeff.